Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavic. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my 2 decades of experience as a craftsman and an entrepreneur to answer any of your questions. Now, 2 big groups that I know watch this show, homeowners, do-it-yourselfers. This is a place where you can ask any of your paint questions, anything you've ever wanted to ask. What brush, what paint, what process? This is an insanely big group, insanely knowledgeable group of some of the best painters in the world on this site. I don't have all the questions, but guys like Paul Schmidt, who is watching, does. And a lot of these people do have all these questions. So we're here for you guys. Also for pros, you know exactly what you're here for. So entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, marketing, sales, coding science, all that good stuff. So today we have an awesome show. I've been looking forward to this one all week. We have the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, which deals with my favorite safety gear. And then I'm going to be joined by Chris Mole. Chris Mole is a painter who lives in Minnesota, the wilderness of northern Minnesota, and one of my favorite people in our industry, one of my favorite people in general. He's just an awesome guy, very unique fella, firefighter, painter, wilderness of northern Minnesota, from England, beautiful English accent. So if you guys can't stand my nasally drone, my Midwestern, yeah, don't you know, sort of thing, hang out, because Chris Mole's got that buttery smooth English accent, and it's always a pleasure to have him on here. So before we get to the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, I'm going to see if I can't fire up Chris Mole here. We'll see. I don't see him on. Nope, there he is. Let's add him. Here, just click on either the little green camera down below, or I should have just sent you a request. You can click on that, and hopefully he'll pop up dual live here with me. There he is.
Hey Nick, how's it going, mate? I don't know if you
man,
can.
how about you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I'm sat at the lake here as well. When we spoke yesterday, you says, make sure you've got some nice scenery, but this lake hasn't really thawed out yet. How's it going down south? Is it thawed out for you? Or?
A couple of our ponds are losing the last bit of ice that we have, but the lakes all have that dark ice, the dangerous stuff on it now.
Yeah. So no more ice fishing, no?
No more. Well, listen, man, I drove by one lake today, and some savage had a 12-foot plank over the water onto the ice. So I was like, listen, man, I don't like sunfish that much. So.
Right.
All right, so a couple things first. We have the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, and I'll get your input on it too. It has to do with safety gear, and then we're going to talk all about Chris Mole, and we want to figure out why 2 guys who are absolute fans of overalls here.
Old school.
We're both in Minnesota, but you speak in a much different accent than I do here,
and
we're gonna talk all about that. So the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week: the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America. They sponsor this show. They share some core values with me, and we have a common goal for the industry is to raise the standards. They send me a Contractor Question of the Week. This week is, what's your favorite safety gear? And Chris, I'm going to tell you mine, and then I would like to hear what your pieces of favorite safety gear are. So number 1, no matter what, the basic. I mean, if you don't do anything else, get a respirator, make sure it's the right kind of respirator. This one is brand new. I actually bought myself a brand new respirator for the exterior season coming up. What I have all my people do is tape the guards on here like this so they don't fall off and lose the little particulate filters right here, and then we label all of our masks. Now these things are not cheap. We tape them, we use magic marker. We got 15, 16 people running around, and they all have these. And what happens is if somebody misplaces their mask or they don't know which one it is, they stop using it because they don't want to plug in somebody else's face onto it. So then they're like, well, I need another one. It's like, I am not going to buy you another one because these are not cheap. So we label the living heck out of them. Also, most underrated piece of safety gear you can get, knee pads. This is something where, you hear about hearing protection, eye protection, that sort of basic stuff. Sometimes even lumbar support, roof, fall arresting harnesses. But one thing you almost never hear about is knee pads. And for me, it's sort of when we don't even wear respirators, we wear this. The second I get on a job site in the morning, I put a pair of these on and I don't take them off till I'm done. So, Chris Mole, your favorite safety gear that you wear on site?
It has to be this, like you just said there as well. It has to be the respirator, and we also label ours as well. And another little tip: we take our filters off and put them in a plastic bag as well to try and keep them from drying out, you know, and they get shot. So yeah, as soon as we're finished with them, but yeah, like all of, we've got 8 guys now, and every one of them have got their name imprinted on their mask, and if they lose it, they pay for it, and that's like $40, you know. So
Yeah.
so they look after them a lot more as well. But yeah, and like you said there as well with knee pads, back in England when they had knee pads, we used to get whites with the, I mean, I find the knee pads that I get from around here that have got that Velcro strap around the back of them, you get all sweaty and chafing, and it's really miserable. So I've actually just ordered, I should send you the link from them as well. There's a pair of whites that has a pocket underneath here that you can fit this rubberized, it's like a rubbery foam insert that you can take them out and re-put them in and you can wash your hands and then re-put them in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny that you would bring those up because I see those over in the UK, and I see guys wearing those in Brazil a lot. It seems like a much more commonplace thing overseas than here in the US.
Right, yeah, because I mean they're just too clunky, the ones from around here, I think, and they move around on your knees, even if you tighten them too tight, and it cuts the circulation off from your feet. You're walking around like, yeah. But I use them as well, you know. I've just ordered, I might actually, if they come in time, I've ordered 4 sets, so if they come in time, I'll bring a set over for you and you can try them out.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I know that I always, in my typical analytic fashion, I kind of rate these things by, number one, where can you get them? What's the price? Price really doesn't matter to me if it does a good job. But number one, I don't want to have to be special ordering a lot of this stuff because we have so many people. So I found that these rubberized knee pads here are available almost everywhere. They don't mar hardwood floors because they have a relatively flexible outer edge. The rubber straps in back actually stay on your knees, on your mid leg. But like you said, as they wear out, as you get sweatier, you keep tightening them, and pretty soon you can't feel your feet anymore. Right. The only downside is like these are pretty cushiony, but there's ones that are much better. They got big, beautiful, like 3-inch gel pads in them. But like you said, they got the Velcro on the back, and the Velcro wears out. It gets sweaty. They don't work. So it's like, I don't know. I'm still waiting for somebody to make a perfect knee pad.
Right. Yeah, and you can get them from Amazon as well. Them but they're like $40, I think they are. But you can get them inserts, and it's just they really are good. I asked a friend of mine that came over from England to bring some over with them. They're actually called Fat Hog painting pants. They sell them at Johnston's and Dulux centers. It's like Johnston's is like the Sherwin-Williams of England. Almost, you know, it sells all their same brand stuff. But yeah, I mean, and not just that. I mean, I like to really stress to my guys to wear gloves too. You know, just to throw away Sherwin-Williams gloves because you can nick and your hands get all dried out, and you know when they're sanding, and even caulking is a big controversial thing as well, you know. I mean, yeah, I can't caulk with gloves on it. I really can't. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I try to get my guys to do that, especially on exteriors, you know, when it's all flaking and chipped off. And
that and the worst part about caulking a lot of the times, or even sanding millwork, you know, you're going to town, you got the 3M sanding sponge,
right.
You're sanding like crazy,
crunch,
and you're running your hand down a door jamb, and you get that splinter that conveniently goes right underneath your fingernail, and you're like, oh, I just got a splinter, and you hold your finger up, and you can see that thing coming right down the underside of your fingernail, and you're just like,
yeah, then you're like, what, ufta?
Digging that one out at lunch.
Right, yeah, that's why it's nice to have gloves on. Glasses when we're sanding as well, and spraying too. I mean, your eyes are like sponges, so I really try to stress that. Masks on. I mean, we should really put gloves and hoods and stuff on like that if we're doing big projects. But if we're doing a seal, just make sure you got your glasses and your respirator on, and you're good to go.
Exactly. So, all right, everybody, if you have questions for me or for Chris, if you have comments, if you have things you'd just like us to talk about, list it down below. Kindest thing you can do for a show like this is to like the Ask a Painter page and also share this show so more people find it. So, number one, I will describe one of the first interactions we had, and I think that'll set the stage for a little more of this. And then I want to hear why you are in my state operating a painting business. So, okay, so one of the first interactions we had, obviously social media is beautiful. Over the last year or two, a lot of people like you and me would never know the other person exists except for social media. So we start liking and commenting on each other's pictures. Pretty soon you find out, oh, this Chris Mole guy is from Minnesota. And then you hear him talk and you're like, oh, English accent. This is interesting. Now I want to hear more. So in typical fashion, like we started messaging each other. And I think one of the first interactions we had was you saying, hey, I'm up here in the wilderness in northern Minnesota. And I was like, oh my God, I love the northern part of Minnesota. I'm like a woods guy, a nature guy. I fish, I do this. And I sent you a picture actually of one of the fish I got mounted here, this big, beautiful pike that I speared up north. And I was like, we can do this. Have you ever seen this before? And you sent me back a picture. Do you remember what that picture was?
Was it of a bobcat or a coyote or something? Yeah.
It was a bobcat. So I thought like, oh my God, this fancy boy from England came over here. He's living in the northern woods. Like, hey, I'm kind of a wilderness guy. I'll show him like, hey, maybe I can take you on a wilderness adventure. I send you a picture of the fish, and you sent me a picture back of you with a bobcat over your shoulders.
Yeah, I love this.
And I was like, oh, we have somebody who I'm very interested now. So.
Oh yeah, it's good fun, man. I love this stuff. This is proper country as well, and I've been all over the world. You know, I mean, I backpack on my back. I'm a bit of a gypsy when it comes to traveling. You know, I've been I've painted. I've went from painting castles in England. I've been to Spain. I've done villas and Costa Blanca. That's in the Rocky Hills. I've been to Greece. I've been all over the world, you know. And I ended up coming here. I've never been to the States before, and I came here and I was actually landed because I've never been to I've always wanted to see the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's one of the world's most beautiful. It's a big crater in the land.
Wonders of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd always wanted to go there, so I landed down in there, and I was going to head west coast, and I seen some sketchy guys up in there, up there, and I met a couple when I was out there, and the couple says to me, he was like, the further west you go, the worse it gets. So I was like, all right, I'm heading inland. So I ended up I was in Dallas, Texas for a bit, and then down in the cities. I was working down in the cities, and then I came to North Dakota because I heard of the big boom that was going on. But it was
the oil boom.
Yeah, but it was like, and I was erecting steel buildings in minus 50 degrees. So yeah, it was miserable. And then I came to Bagley, Minnesota, where I sit right now, and that's where I was at an old honky-tonk tavern bar, and that's where I met my beautiful wife, Katie, and 3 kids later.
So, question for you now: where in people know as Minnesota as the big state like this. Minneapolis is in the lower half, and basically everything north of there starts getting more wildernessy as you go up. How wildernessy is the place where you live?
Oh, it's pretty wildernessy. I mean, I live a couple of minutes from a lake. This lake, actually. So I live just like up around this corner here, and I'm sat on Lamont Lake. And my house, I mean, I sent you a video just the other day with like 20 turkeys walking through my house, you know. And then I walk to the back door and I look down and there's a fox running around with deer walking through, and there's like a couple of does and mama, I've seen bucks, and yeah, beautiful. I mean, bears as well, man. You see black bears up here. I was at the garbage dump, and I was getting rid of all of my rubbish, and I jumped out of my truck and jumped in the bed of my truck and grabbed a load of rubbish bags, and big old boar bear jumps out of the garbage can. I was like, I jumped back in my truck. I was like, get out of here quickly. But yeah, man, loads of wilderness around here. Beautiful, lovely trails and that, man. I can't wait for you to come up here and actually and see some of this stuff, you know. We'll take a 4-wheeler out into the woods and go shoot some little fuzzies or something.
Yeah, we got at least one plan on the books. I'm trying to talk you into a spring pike fishing thing as soon as the spawn's on. Mm-hmm. And then also we got turkeys on the books too. So if those turkeys are still running around, I'm going to come up and see you. So. Oh
yeah, that'll be good fun, man. It'll be good fun. Yeah.
So now, where in the UK were you born? Were you raised?
I was born in Newcastle. Wait there, sorry. I was born in Newcastle, England, so Wall's End. Do you know? So the Roman Wall. I don't think that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So right where
Yep.
the wall ended, that's where we live. So it's right on the border of Scotland. There's a little garrison in between England and Scotland when that war went on. I mean, it's such a historic town. The old
Wow.
Segadunham, and yeah, I mean, we've painted things from like Bamborough Castle. It's a the Anglo-Saxon royal palace, right? And it got converted to a Victoria by the Victorian inventor, and he was an industrialist. The First Lord Armstrong. It was his vision of a perfect castle, Bamborough Castle. So we went in there and like I've painted the Neville Tower, which was converted into like a bed and breakfast place, and the Kingfisher Cottage, and yeah, it's beautiful places. And I mean, if any of you guys have ever seen Harry Potter, there's an Alnwick Castle. Actually, we painted the gilded ceilings up in Alnwick Castle. Yeah, it's amazing. The state
So
rooms.
you're talking about a painting now. So I assume that you spent all your school years in the UK. And did you do anything after what we would consider high school? Did you go to formal education after that? Did you go right into painting? How did that look?
Yeah. So when you leave school, you either go to college. So when you're 16, you either go to college or you go to a trade school. So you can go
Uh-huh.
and study what you guys call carpentry, what you call it joinery, or bricklaying, plastering, electrician, painting. And I come from a family line of painters, you know. So the thing, I mean, I've always painted since I was a kid, like
Hmm.
13, 14-year-old. I'd pick a
Was
brush
it a
up and
family business, or did they work for somebody else?
my uncle had his own business
Hmm.
painting and restoring old buildings, and I just loved it, you know. It was just such a gratifying feeling going somewhere and getting compliments on turning something that's not very aesthetically pleasing into something amazing, you know. That's what I
Hmm.
love most about painting. It's something, it's a real passion of mine, you know. I enjoy it a lot. Like seeing the look on people's faces after you completely transform a space by a little
Hmm.
bit of hard work and a coating. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
like, it's
really.
pretty simple, you know. Yet it's very efficient when it comes to visualizing and seeing and transforming a space, you know.
So now, how many years after school were you a painter for a while? When did the traveling start?
Yeah, I left school. I really didn't really stick in at school. I wasn't much of a school person, you know. So at 16, I left school and I went into my NVQ level 1. It's like a city and guilds sort of thing. So it was called Carillion. So it's a modern apprenticeship, an actual modern apprenticeship. And you go
Very
your
nice.
first year, you get your NVQ level 1, and then the second year, you get your NVQ level 2, which is like wallpapering and you know hanging wallpaper and stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And then once you leave, after you do your 2 years, and then you go out on site, and then somebody takes them under your wing, and you just
So
assign that.
in that first 2 years, is it all classroom kind of stuff, or is it sort of classroom plus kind of on the job stuff, or how's that look?
Right. Yeah, it's mostly classroom stuff. So you'll go in with little cubbies and it'll be like textured wallpaper on there. And it'll be like, okay, go in there and strip that off. And then they'll give you like a 2-inch brush and say, paint that ceiling. And then they'll give you
Wow.
they'll get you to completely strip something like a little cubby and then paint it and then paper it. And it's just, I mean, I love it so much. I love that so much. And there's not much of that around here in the States. So,
No, I would even hazard. I mean, you can't say that there's nothing here, but try to find one. Try to find something like that in the States. Good luck.
right, exactly. And that's why I'm in partnership now with the Bemidji Careers Academy here in Bemidji in our town, trying to equip the students with the skills necessary, you know, to obtain higher skilled employment. Like that have that. They do like modular homes from
Mm.
start to finish. So I've been going in once a week and talking to a class of 19 students and trying to show them the basic prep and painting skills.
I've been following that online too. That's very interesting to watch. And obviously, something that I've been preaching for years now is the best thing we can do to solve this, labor crisis is to be happy, to inspire other people, and you're doing that by the handful, 19 at a time,
Yeah,
up there,
it's not
and
hard. It's not
your
easy.
love of this. Your love of this is all they need, because if they met a guy like you who was a plumber, you could probably get them to be plumbers. It just so happens we're painters here, and yeah, it's an amazing thing. And these young people, I don't know if this is the case with those guys. It's like they're just yearning to be inspired by somebody to do something, and I don't think they care what it is.
Right, exactly. I thoroughly agree on it as well. And I mean, it's it's not easy either, trying to keep the attention of 19 guys. I mean, as soon as I start talking about castles and painting old 14th century historic buildings, they're like, and then I get into coating science, and you just see like one will like turn away, one will put a dip in, the couple will talk amongst themselves, and it'll just be like, yeah, all right, now everybody get a brush together and everybody come follow me. And then you've got 19 guys and you're trying to, yeah, it's really a tough task, but it's great, man. I get the messages from them saying, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. And like for a young kid to reach out to you and tell you that you're doing a good job and they really appreciate it. And I was totally inspired by you as well. I mean, personally, the amount of the amount of help, and it's like you know I'm trying to compare it with like back in England, these older guys and that. It's like they're like a closed book, you know what I mean? They don't like to tell the secrets and the tricks of the trade. Yeah, as soon as I met you and I started looking at all of your videos and your past videos and how you like to teach and learn and equip people with the basic and, I mean, better skills, and within our trade. It's really inspired me to do that as well. So, I mean, it's a ripple, I mean, what you're doing is you're reaching out to many people all across the globe, man. And I really do commend and thank you for that.
Well, you make me super uncomfortable. So thank you, though. I do appreciate it.
You're going red there.
So I want to hear about the start of your travel, but first, Alex Marchuk, a painter from Missouri, has a question about actual paint. So you and I get to talk paint. So your thoughts on breakthrough from PPG? I found that the oils from your hands break down the paint. How do I approach my customers when they call? I did 4 really big projects, all woodwork in the house and cabinets. I did my house in that product, and on all the doors, it's sticky where you touch. It feels really sticky and gummy. So have you had any, I've been following your social media even closer now because you're posting some amazing stuff, which we'll get to, but have you ever ran into water-based enamels, water-based paint, sort of never feeling like it really hardens up, something like that, Chris?
Yeah, I do actually. And it's the urethanes. I don't know if it's like, I get that with not so much, Benjamin Moore. It's more toward the emerald urethane. I felt like 2 days later, it almost feels like an oil as it sets up, because isn't the hybrids that evaporate all of that goes on like a water based and they evaporate and then you're left with an oil based finish?
Yeah, I mean the general idea, and when I talk to like the coating scientists, and I just say, obviously treat me like a kindergartner, and they basically say oil molecule, water vehicle, water gets it on, water evaporates, and you're left with probably the closest thing you can to like what we would consider an oil. So, yeah, and I think there's a lot of chemistry there where I think they've been around. I did a post recently about the first time I used hybrid, which is 7 or 8 years ago, and since then they've come an insanely long way. And I still think there's a lot of old wives' tales, and misconceptions about them. And I think there's a little bit of science that we quite don't understand yet, even though, for painters who have a lot of experience, a lot of things sort of come into focus when you use a hybrid. Some things kind of look like a water base, they look like an oil. But honestly, I've never had the hand oil break down any hybrid coatings. It's mainly to me, it's like the more water-based the coating is, the more the hand oils will affect it. All the way to the point where I'm sure you've seen this too, but maybe in an apartment where they painted a handrail with just like latex wall paint, just even a crappy, not even 100% acrylic, just like a regular satin wall paint. That hand oil will immediately start to break it down, make it soft, and then come off.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I had that just recently as well. Maybe it's at humidity levels, or at, I mean, for it to be sticky, what you see is what, 2 days later within that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that there's a whole bunch of like, Benjamin Moore Scuff-X is probably a better version of PPG Breakthrough. Now, I'm a fan of PPG Breakthrough. I've done a bunch of trim and mill work and things like that in it, and I've not had that result, even with almost black finishes. But you have to sort of think of these PPG Breakthroughs and these Benjamin Moore Scuff-X as these sort of water-based paints, but they're really acrylic modified urethanes, acrylics like that. There's still, when you open one of those up, there's still enough smell coming out of that can that lets you know there's some science going on in there. This is not
Right.
just a can of acrylic paint, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you have to mentally, how I think about the Scuff-X's and the PPG Breakthroughs is they are an insanely tough wall paint. They aren't necessarily an enamel. So you need to think like they will be probably better and harder and more beautiful and wear better than any wall paint you use. But the second you take it over to the trim stuff where people handle it regularly, there's a big difference between the best wall paint on earth and even a regular enamel. Yes, no, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, I thoroughly agree as well. And from us going from, I mean, you've been a restorationist and a painter for a lot of years. So, I mean, when you first started out, everything was oil, and you just
Yep.
can't get that. It doesn't matter what it is, what hybrid, what enamel, what waterborne material it is. I just really don't think there's nothing at the moment that's on the market that beats that old style oil based finish. I love this
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, they're trying to get away from it. Um, there's a Farrow and Ball. I don't know if they sell that here in America, but that's what we used to use back in England, and it was the most amazing coatings ever. And that's going away from high VOC paints. I mean, they don't do
Yeah.
oil now.
Which is very interesting because obviously starting 10 years ago I was interested in like hybrids and even just a really good Pro Classic enamel or Benjamin Moore Impervo water-based enamel. I was interested in that stuff because I kind of read the writing on the wall, which is I've been around long enough where you could still buy gallons of eggshell oil wall paint for your house. And I know that within 10 or 15 years, we probably won't be able to find it. And that's sort of true now. So I'm glad that I started dipping into the other coatings right away. But, the problem is nothing still beats. Like you'll go into a home from the 30s, 40s, or 50s around here, and you'll see that old matte, low lustry, old finish. It's not shiny at all. It's as hard as a rock. It's beautiful. You can scrub it with the Scotch-Brite pad, and it's basically like a 50 to 75-year finish. And yes, it smells, but you don't have to recoat it 8 times in its life. It is I mean, there were the proverbial example I always use around here is grandma's in her farmhouse. The farmhouse is 100 years old. The kitchen still has the oil paint on the ceiling and walls. And every year, whether it needs it or not, she scrubs it with a Scotch-Brite pad. And it's been there for 70 years and it still looks good. So
Yeah, amazing, man. I love it. But
let's talk about your first traveling. So why'd you leave England and where did you go first?
first ever time, like when I was like 19. Yeah, I've been to Spain. I've been to Greece, Cabos, Corfu. I've been all the way around there.
Were you seeking an adventure? Were you forced out of England? Help me understand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get that as well from around here. There's like such a small town of like 1,200 people, and it's like, yeah, he's escaped from England away from the English mafia. I was like, what? Like, yeah, people are like, why the hell are you in Bagley, Minnesota?
You're a mysterious guy, Chris.
Yeah.
You're a mysterious. I mean, listen, if I was to move my family to Bagley, they would look at me like a foreigner. And I'm from the same state, and I speak like them. But there's such a line of demarcation between up north and then all the city people down here.
Right? It is. But you blend in great in anyways with that godlike beard of yours, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
just come in with a whole bear skin draped over you and that, and just run around there in the loincloth. Yeah, but you know what? I just like a change of scenery, you know. It's just something that I've always loved to do. I've always loved to just put a backpack on my back, and I've went to an airport before. So I used to be on the fishing boats as well back in England, the
Mm-hmm.
trawlers. So I used to go to sea for like 15 days and come back with like £2,400, which is like $3,000. And I used to go to the airport and just look at when the next flight was and just be like, oh, hey, can I go there? And I've been to
Oh my God.
Amsterdam. I got on a ferry and went to Amsterdam and traveled all around the Holland. And yeah, I just like to see different architecture and people and places. And just, it's a big world out there, you know what I mean? And it's
What is a place that you would never go back to?
never,
Yeah. Do you have no interest in going back to?
probably the Indian reservations around northern
Yeah.
Minnesota, because they're scary there. Don't go there after 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? But nah, probably like the anything highly populated party areas right now. I used to be all for them when I was younger, but now I have a family and
Of
I
course,
just,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, there'll be fully grown men walking around in tutus, puking up on the street. You know, it's just not
Yeah.
really my scene anymore. Yet I used to be that guy in the tutu.
We all did.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what is of all the places you've been, what's your favorite? What's the one that you would go, you would drop everything and go back in a second?
Where I live right now, believe it or not, you know, I've done a few states now. I mean, when we went to Crank, that's a beautiful
Yeah.
Colorado,
Denver.
really
Yep.
pretty, you know, really pretty. But there's just something about the woods and being at with nature, you know, around here, and the fall and the sunsets up on the lakes and the leaves turning, and yeah, there's just something. Yeah, that's why I mean you put up with 6 7 month winters here in Minnesota,
Yeah.
because you get absolutely bedazzled by the summers and the fall here. You know, it's the most amazing place on earth. You know, it's God's country.
And yeah, I mean, you're talking to somebody who's insanely biased. I've done just enough traveling to understand how good we have it here, because I'm not one of those people from Minnesota that's like, oh, this is the best place on earth, and I haven't even been to Iowa yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, I lived in the South for a while. We've done all that stuff, and it's like, no, really, like the people are really nice. The
Hmm.
schools are world class. Yes, the winters can be long sometimes, but if you're guys like us who don't, I mean, we're active in the winter. We have businesses to run. We like the things to do in winter. It's not, I mean, I don't mind it at all here. I like it.
Yeah.
And like you said, the summers are insane.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. You know, get a pontoon and you just go out on the lake with the family, and you'll just let it drift off, you know, and watch your bobber. I mean, I was up at Long Lake here, and I'm gonna take you down there when you come here one day. We'll hook the camper up and we'll go down there and bring the kids. You can just stand on the dock and you can put a hot dog on the end of a fishing pole there, throw it out, and boom, you got a little crappie, or you've got a little sunfish, or a little bluegill, or something. No, just
I love
panfish,
it.
little. I mean, non-eaters, you know, but you can just throw them back, and
Yep.
it's great fun with the kids, you know, absolutely
Yep.
great fun. I love the place. It's the most beautiful.
So have you always been a hunter and a fisherman, even back in England, or is this something new here?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I don't want to get into this controversial side of things, but yeah, I mean, I have, yeah. I'd be 11, 10, 11 year old. I mean, my boy's 8 now, right? And if he did the things that I did when I was like 8, 9 year old, I used to have polecats and ferrets, you know, and a few Jack Russells, and I'd be 8, 9, 10, 11 year old, and I'd walk down into the woods, into the Dean, it's called. So we used to go right down into the Dean, which was like a
Yeah, yeah.
big crater of woods. And I used to tell the dogs, get him out. And my dogs used to, like, I had a Lakeland Terrier, I had a Jack Russell Terrier. I used to chase the rabbits into the holes. And then I built these drawstring nets. So these nets that had like a drawstring, and you peg each. So once the dogs yapping at that hole, you know, the rabbit went down that hole, and then your other dog runs over to the other hole, and it's going back and forth. So then you know which net to peg, you know. So
Ah,
you'll peg the
you
hole.
put the net over the hole, so then when the thing pops up, it gets caught in the net.
Yeah, well, you'll peg
Oh,
you'll peg the drawstring net on the one side, and then I'll take my ferret, which I'll have it's more like a weasel. I don't know if we get them
yeah,
around here, like a
yeah.
polecat, and these polecats are like excuse me, I'm getting notifications. These polecats have got like little bandit masks like raccoons, but they look like a
Oh,
weasel.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I'd train them, to train them to tease them with a rabbit fur, and I'd put that down the hole, and the weasel will chase the rabbit out into the drawstring net, and I used to take the rabbit back to my mom at 10 year old, and my mom used to put it in the crock pot and stew it up for us.
God, you were a wild kid.
Yeah, it was great fun, man. I loved that. It being
Awesome.
able to take care of yourself, and just a proud moment when your dad used to take you out. Yeah, we used to hunt all sorts, man. All sorts of
Oh,
stuff.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, so this must, no wonder you like it so much here. This is a wonderland
Yeah,
of where you live. I
yeah.
mean,
Especially when you like come here and you see a fisher, which is like a weasel on steroids. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
was like, what on earth is that? But yeah, I mean, I got sprayed. I had a trap line set up when I first came over here and got sprayed
Yeah.
by a skunk right in the chest. So, so it's like, so yeah, I never done much trapping
You were
after that.
telling me, I think we were in Denver together and you were telling me the story where you got hit by this, was it on your back deck or something?
Oh no! I seen this. I seen another skunk after that because I'm not scared of like little fuzzy animals. You know what I mean? So I got sprayed by a skunk once, and I came in from work at like 10 o'clock one night, and the burglar light came on at the back, and I seen a little black
Yep.
and white thing, and I was like, ooh, like scared the living hell out of me, and took off running. But yeah, man, I had everything, man. You see big porcupines here. In England, you get hedgehogs, which is just a little miniature,
Yeah.
you know.
It's a tiny little guy.
Yeah, and then you get porcupines here, which are like dogs with 12-inch spikes on them. It's like,
Yeah.
it's cool, man. I like to watch them as well. I mean, I like to fish and hunt and stuff, but I love to watch animals. I like to just go out into the woods, in the fall, and you can just sit up in your deer stand, and you'll see all sorts just running past you, and just sit and listen, and it's beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful,
Oh,
the
that's
amount of
awesome.
little fuzzies that are around, yeah.
So you're a wanderer, you're a gypsy, but I think you're probably stuck in Minnesota for a while. You have an awesome wife who I got to meet in Denver, and you got a family here now too. So I assume you're at least stationary for the meantime. Yes.
Yep, yeah, for good, man. I love this place, and I've got a Minnesotan. I mean, this winter got really long, man. 60 below. It got
Yeah.
cold, man. Really cold. And I was like, let's move to North Carolina or something, and leave our house here, and we can come back, and we can be them snowbirds. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my wife is total Minnesotan through and through. She's like, oh yeah. No, I ain't moving out of Minnesota, me, no,
It's so hilarious to see the English version of a Minnesota accent. That is so awesome. That's not something you hear every day.
Right, not so good at it, like, but my wife's good at it. She's proper Norwegian Minnesotan as well,
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
great, good girls,
No, I mean, listen, it's funny you would say that because I mean, obviously we're winter guys, we're Minnesota guys now. We love this, but this is the first winter where I was like, if we engineer life correctly, like we could live down south for a month in the middle of winter. It wouldn't be the worst thing. And
Right?
it got you to thinking. Only because, yeah, it seemed like we had such a long winter, and it was, and I got a young family just like yours, and sometimes the temperatures, especially like 60 below, like you said, doesn't you can't take your kids sledding when it's that
Oh
cold,
no,
So it does kind of limit you and make you hunker down in these houses. And I think this is the first winter of my life where I had the fleeting thought of like, I wonder what that would look like.
yeah, but they're tough as old boots around here, I was really worried. It was like minus 61 at one point, and I was
Mhm.
painting this old lady's house, and she was in her 70s, and she just puts a jacket on and starts walking out into the woods. I was like, it's like minus 61 here. What are you doing, Like, but she came back 20 minutes later, and she was like, "Brr, it sure is cold out," and I was
Yeah,
like,
he's like, ooh,
geez,
just shake it off
yeah,
quick.
I was like, geez, that's like, I mean, nothing survives in this cold. But
It's amazing. Yeah, and it's amazing what we as humans can get used to, whether it be the desert in Iraq or northern Minnesota, like I guess the two extremes on the planet.
yeah.
And yeah, after a while, it's like the first time it's -30, it's like wow, that's really cold. But after a month of it, you're like I'm not putting on my hat to get the mail. I'm just going jacket and stuff.
Yeah, then you'll really regret that as well when you just can't feel your ears. You know what I mean? Feel them going black and shriveling up like prunes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets horrifically bad here in Minnesota. But it makes up for it for the summers and falls for sure.
So, as far as the painting business and the stuff you do, what are some of the sort of processes, the things you're really excited about now? What do you find yourself doing a lot of? What's interesting to you?
Well, the thing that excites me now, it was actually a hobby of mine, and it is refinishing old laminate countertops. I mean,
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
see that? Did you see like with
I
epoxy?
I was in awe of that thing, and I
It's
love that you documented the process too. So, if I mentioned this before you popped on, but if people don't follow Chris Mole or Mr. Mole's paintings, do it because he documented his process of making a laminate countertop look like Carrara marble, and I loved watching you do it. Like you really, I had no idea you had this kind of artistic flair like that.
well, it's actually quite simple, believe it or not. You know, it's
Yeah,
you
but
do,
everybody says that who's good at
no, you really
it.
don't need to have much artistic ability, you know. So I don't know if I can spin this around, pardon the dirty truck, yeah, but I have this here with me right now, and you know the typical Mica laminate countertops with this
Oh
on.
yeah, the Formica. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
for Mica there. Yeah, sorry, but see, we'll peel that off, and then you're left with this with that glue residue on that. So
Yeah.
we'll sand that right back down, and we'll apply Bondo in this form, and you don't even need to be meticulous with this. You can have fun. Just slap it on there, and then you'll sand that down with an orbital. So then it still creates texture, and it looks like a rock face edge. I mean, it's
Oh, that was one of the coolest parts of it because I've even dabbled with the epoxy countertop stuff when it first came out on the market. But that rock faced edge thing you were doing, I was like, wow, that is so awesome. I never would have thought about that.
yeah, and I mean, you can just skim these flat, yeah, but I think it gives an extra bit of character to it. You know, it's more real. Like it creates more realism
Yeah.
to the piece. And as everybody knows, the typical kitchen countertop, like a mock granite kitchen countertop, will be between $1,000 and $1,400. You know, for the
Mm.
typical small kitchen. You'll see the seams on the corners as well. And after a while, especially under dishwashers and stuff, moisture will get underneath that and it'll start to peel off. And well, this stuff, yeah, I mean, it's low VOC, it's scratch resistant, it is, I mean, food safe, it's an awesome material, and you
Mm.
can skim all of these joints and all of these cracks and all of these imperfections with just a normal all-purpose Bondo. And long as you clean it with TSP, like everything, and use a bonding primer, well, clean it, sand it with 50 grit to give it a tooth, and then apply a bonding primer, you can paint that with enamel and it'll be fine, you know? I mean,
So what is your bonding primer of choice for that for going over
uh,
Formica?
just a Sherwin-Williams bonding primer, you know, just
Mm.
the
Water
generic,
based.
yeah, just a water-based
Hmm.
generic, the Sherwin-Williams bonding primer. I'm sure anything would actually work, you know, long as you give it that, long as you rough it up with 50 grit, and
Yep.
it'll be just fine. And then you can go over the top, and then you could use any sort of enamel over the top of that to give it that base coat, and then you can have fun with some spray paints, you know, different colored spray paints. I just creating undertones, which I mean, undertones will create more depth within the piece, and as you layer in, I mean, you can just see as you're gazing into this piece that it's beautiful. It really is. It really is pretty, and
Yep.
it's so easy to do. You just need a chop
I
brush.
saw how you kind of took gray paint and you made the veins and the marble and stuff like that. That was really cool.
Yeah, just spray paint too. Rust-Oleum ×2 spray paint. You spray it right on the surface. You use your brush, the same chop brush that you do to get rid of all of the trowel marks when you're troweling it
Mm.
out. Because I use a 1/8 inch square notch trowel, and as you move in the material, it creates a nice level surface. You know, it's not too much material in certain spots.
Yeah.
Then you get rid of them prefabricated, man-made trowel mark lines with a brush, and you just chop it out.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, because then you're not getting huge lumps of areas and then too thin and stuff too. That's clever.
yeah.
I like
And
that.
then you just have to chop it out with a brush, you know, so it creates more realism as well. And then have fun, man. I mean, you can spray paint onto it. I mean, there is certain spray paints that I did test out, like that Krylon, and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
few of them, they don't really go with epoxy, I don't think. You know, like the synthetic, like a
They're sort of incompatible at
right, yeah,
some
they'll
level.
float to the top
Yeah.
of the surface and they'll not meld with the material.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Huh.
it's awesome stuff, man. It's good fun, and I that was my first ever countertop that I did. I normally did sample boards, and I've done things from like quartz and any sort of natural stone, jade. I've got granites. I mean, I love blue granite, and you can get these fluorescent pigments that just want to push away from each other and meld and create craziness. And I mean, if it does look man-made, you take your torch, and as long as you don't keep it in
Oh,
like one spot to burn it, you know what I mean? You can take your torch and move it around and use a heat gun and move it around and create that real feel to it, you know? It's good fun.
that's awesome, man. So I probably should mention too that the Gathering of Minnesota Painters is next week, April 4th, from 11 to 2. Graco is actually hosting us at their world headquarters, which is a huge honor. I assume you making the drive
Yep,
down, Chris?
I'll be there with my buddy Cody as well. He's going to be there,
Oh,
a
that's
fellow
awesome.
paratrooper, you know. So I'll have to try and keep
Oh,
you guys away from each other because it'll end up in a
what?
long night.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. If somebody opens a can of Budweiser in a 3 county area, both of us are going to be able to smell it. So yeah, it's
Right.
good. He's a fellow England guy, right?
No, he's not. Actually, he's
Oh,
from Bagley,
he's a.
Minnesota. Yeah, he's from, yeah. I'm
Oh,
on the
really? I
fire
thought.
department with him.
Oh, you had. I think you had some guys from England visiting you, or at least one guy visiting you too, recently as well. I thought I saw that as well.
Yep. He was here and he ended up breaking his back on a snowmobile, believe it or not. Yeah, pretty bad.
Are you serious?
Yeah, first time on a
Oh my
snowmobile. He's great on a dirt bike. He ends up taking a jump and going 10 feet in the air and broke two of his vertebrae on a
Oh my
snowmobile and had to
God.
go back. Yeah, it was a bit of a bad deal. But yeah, Cody is a paratrooper in I think it's the 107th or something Airborne Division. He's a
Awesome.
paratrooper from here, Bagley, Minnesota, and I met him when I got here and I married my wife and I was looking around for jobs. I was working at a dehydrated vegetable plant, right?
Wow.
One of the worst jobs I've ever had, actually. But within 3 weeks, they wanted me in the labs wearing a white coat doing QA. You know, I went from peeling potatoes to wearing a white coat. So it was, yeah, I excelled pretty quickly in that company. But it wasn't
Wow.
for me, man. It really wasn't for me. But yeah, I went into the volunteer fire department here, and that's where I met Cody. And his dad owned a paving company, and
Hmm.
I started paving with him as well for 2-3 years. I mean, I've only been in business now for a year. This is my first year here in the States in painting.
Wow, man, that's yeah. I mean, obviously, I knew you were new, but I not 1 year new. That's insane.
In the
You're doing
States.
some awesome things up there, man. That's insane. I
Yeah,
love it.
from being on my own, laid off in the winter, just starting the business up and going around reaching out to all of the estate agents and the letting agencies and trying to create and build trust amongst the small community I have here, to having 8 guys that are on the books full time here, and we're running 2-3 crews a week, booked up now until July. And yeah,
That's amazing, man. And you know the biggest worry for guys, I mean, because most of us would move up to a little cabin in the Northwoods of Minnesota, but we're always like, how the hell are you going to find work up there? Evidently, you're not having any problems.
no, not now. I mean, at first it was, but Facebook and social media it's made this so easy, you know. And I'm
Ah,
trying to preach this to these college kids that are reaching out to me. I'm not just trying to preach our craft to these guys. I'm trying to reach out to their entrepreneurial side too. So I'm
yes,
telling them,
yes,
make
yes, yes,
yourself a
yes.
Facebook page, you know. I showed them how to do an accent wall. Why not say Alex's accent walls? Take some before and
Yep.
afters. Do your grandma's house, do your dad's house, do everybody's house for free. All you'll need is some frog tape and a brush and a roller, you know, and you're gonna drop cloth
Yeah.
and you're good to go.
Everybody's got a step ladder.
Yeah, you know, and they're loving that. You know, I've got a guy that is actually in the process, and he says, "Would you be able to call up and would you be able to meet up with me and go over how I can boost posts and stuff? So I'm pretty excited to try and show these guys and get them out there and try and earn their own money as well, if they haven't got time to come on for me.
And I honestly think exactly what you said could not be more true and could be not be more beneficial to our industry, which is when if you agree to the sort of assumption that there is a labor lag or a labor crisis where a lot of businesses like ours, we would do a lot more business if we could just find good people. Most people's knee-jerk reaction is make some more painters, but really that's good and we're going to do that. But what we really should do is make more trades entrepreneurs, and they will make their own painters in the end. So yes, you and I love the craft, but we also have to show people the entrepreneur side because we'll capture more than just people looking for a labor job.
Exactly. And that's what I learned a lot from you about as well, is actually reaching out to people and not just showing them that side of it, because that exactly what you said there. It grabs their attention. It shows that I'm not just going to be that hobbled over, hunked over, beaten up old painter, like 50-year-old and still thinking it's a dead end job, but actually look into the future and think, hey, I could be doing what you're doing. And I want that. I'm trying to show them that it's really not that hard,
Well, true. You and I do it, so how hard can it
be? Yeah, right.
But no, listen, man. No truer words. So, just like you said about the old grumpy guys who are closed book in the UK, it's the same thing here. I mean, you look at a lot of our generation of tradespeople or our parents' generations in the States. They're not very happy. They're not very healthy. They're not very wealthy, and they just sort of go about life like, "What are you gonna do? I'm a painter," and it's like. No wonder people aren't interested in painting on the first outset. So having guys, listen, I try to be at least a mediocre spokesman for the trades and for painting, but my God, if I had a voice like yours, Chris Mull, and out there, you are the best advocate we have with that buttery smooth accent.
Oh, come on.
Preaching to the trades. Oh, come on. Man. So you have a leg up. I mean, listen, growing a business to the size you have, getting with the trade schools, networking with all these people all within your first year. I mean, this is awesome, man. I just love watching.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And it's all thanks to you as well. You've really did put a bee in me bonnet when it comes to trying to help others around me as well, I mean, and it was great. The best form of advice that you gave me as well is when I remember I was past myself. I was so much anxiety on going into this classroom, and I just says, you got any words of advice? And I really appreciate that call when you were like, don't apologize for being a painter, and I was like, it was pretty like, what does he mean by that, But then when you went into depth on, it always seems like tradesmen and people of art stature right now will say, oh yeah, and apologize for what we are, when it's nothing to be sorry about.
Nothing to be sorry about, and in fact, I could make a good argument that when you take a look around our peer group and the people our age, we're starting to get to that age where we do have young families now. We're supposed to be having careers and all this other stuff. Look around and take a real assessment of how many people around you actually like their jobs. And I'm done apologizing, because most of the time when you talk to another guy, they're like, yeah, I'm a carpenter, and it's always it's but I'm starting up something on the side, but I'm thinking about getting into this, but I'm going back to school and this, and it's like, listen, man, we have these little freedom machines now that you and I are making, and you probably realize this more than even I do, because I've been mired in this trade for 25 years now, since I was a little kid, and you have in some extent, but you've created this amazing freedom machine for you and your family in the wilderness of northern Minnesota, no less. And I think we should be done apologizing for that. I mean,
sure.
We're happy. We really like our jobs. We really like the business side. We like the coding science. We like constant improvement and progression. And for it, we will be better. We will be wealthier. And I think we need to infect the next group of people, just like you're doing up there at the trade schools.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, for sure. I would definitely. I'm trying to to reach out to even younger generations as well. You know, we go in there like with our fire department, we'll go into schools and talk about fire safety. I mean, to go in and talk about, I know you're not gonna reach out and really capture the attention of really young people, you know. But I think it would be good to just get it in their minds and have them mess around with the whiz roller as well. And my kids love it. I mean, I'll put him to
Yep.
work when he comes to work with me, you know, and he's seeing all of these new things and cork guns and spackling knives, and he just loves to get involved with it as well.
Yep.
And to show that encouragement and like enthusiasm to this trade to the younger generations, I think it'll I mean, start them young, you know, and hopefully they turn into quite the crafts people.
It would be nice because, I think if people like you and I succeed at what we're doing, number one, everybody will be wearing overalls. And number two, we won't we won't have problem finding people, craftspeople. The ultimate goal of all this is somewhere between 10 and 20 years from now. If you put an ad in the paper, if you put an ad on Facebook, if you reach out to find, hey, I'm looking for craftspeople who love this trade, I want to be inundated with people who are like, listen, I'm doing this now, but I'm not appreciated at my company. I love this craft more than anything. I want to be with somebody who loves this at least as much as me, and I want to see upward mobility. Right now, we have to create all that. Not only do we have to create that inspiration, we have to create craftspeople too. So guys like you and me, our generation, guys like Mike McGrath, Sean down in Missouri, all these people are doing this now. We're kind of doing double duty. If we do this well, 10 or 20 years from now, we'll be able to have a ready supply of people like us who have the same sort of moral compass, the same goals in life and things like that. So I think, you're making huge headway up there.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, I mean, we can have a dream and we can try and alter what's already being created, you know, from these drastic baby boomers, you know, 10 and us millennials in the stereotypical lazy millennial, you know. I don't believe that. My finest workers are millennials, you know. They're awesome at what they do.
Agreed. Yeah, both of us really have companies made up of millennials, not only at the captain's wheel, but all the people that we're inspiring too. So yes, we've gone down this road many times before. A 22-year generation gap. Biologically, we don't change. There's just as many bad people in the previous generation as in our generation, and will be in Gen Z after us. So not a big deal, but so we should probably bring it to an end because both of us have families and work, and it's Friday, and we want to wrap it up and do all that other stuff. So what else, Chris? Anything else you were dying to talk about? Anything on your mind before we wrap her up today? Oh, maybe he lost signal there for a second. Oh, we lost Chris. Okay, easy enough. So thank you so much for the PDCA. Steve, thank you so much. It was an awesome show. Anybody who talks to Chris Moll loves Chris Moll and is better for it. So Mike McGrath, you too. I know we were at Crank in Denver last time and had some awesome conversations. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for watching the show. Please like the Ask a Painter page, share it and share the show, and let's get some more people involved with this. Thank you to the PDCA, the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America, for underwriting this show, spreading the word, and doing amazing things for our industry. Not only are they going to give all people their onboarding and training videos for free this year, which are upcoming, which is an amazing thing in itself. They're working to get healthcare, dental, and eye care insurance for all painters. There's about 310,000 painters in the United States, and we're all sort of negotiating as a party of one, like I am, for health insurance. You have basically no standing with the health insurance companies. If the PDCA succeeds in this, and they're going through the underwriting process now, we may be able to band together as hundreds of thousands of painters and get a better rate on our group insurance. So that would be nice, right? Because right now I pay the equivalent of probably a vacation home every month, mortgage payment, in health insurance and deductibles and things. So look forward to that. Let's see, Mike McGrath, gonna call you, would like your input on something we're doing next week. Absolutely. anytime. I'm an open book. You know that, especially for you, Mike. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the PDCA. Thank you to Chris Mole. Awesome guy. We are not only going to see each other next Thursday at the Gathering of Minnesota Painters, which if you're interested, there's a Facebook group, Gathering of Minnesota Painters. You can, if you are a painter and you are from Minnesota, you're more than welcome. You just have to be willing to sort of progress the industry. No sticks in the mud in this group. So Graco will be hosting us. We will be there at the World Headquarters. Free lunch, 2 hours in the middle of the day. Members present stuff. Ryan Turry, another great Minnesota painter here with a young family, will be talking about work-life balance. The infamous, the famous Jason Paris, the Elon Musk of our industry, will be there, and he will be presenting Jason Paris-y sort of stuff. He never disappoints, and I'm actually digging through a bunch of market research I did in the last few years about Minnesota. And I am going to present some of that along with just some other perspective stuff there too. And obviously this is the Gathering of Minnesota Painters is such a open group. We basically set it up so we can just discuss stuff. It's not you sitting through demonstrations or lectures like that. Somebody like Ryan Turry gets up there and he talks about work-life balance for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we talk about it in depth. So everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to get back on. I got to make sure next week is all set up. Thank you to the PDCA. And everybody have a good week. Talk to you later.